Welcome to part 2 of my series titled $30 billion repatriation money available for Jamaica to claim. Having established in part 1 that the money that was made from the transatlantic slave trade is not with the governments of the countries from which the former slave owners came from, but the money is in private companies, pension funds, and with families, etc. It is from these companies that Jamaica can take $30 billion up front through investments in the Jamaica tourism industry. Notice that I did not say to ask or beg for it, but to take it. This must be done by strategical planning, because not only can Jamaica take $30 billion upfront in investments, but the aim is for Jamaica to earn at least an additional $10 billion every year for the next 30 years and beyond through its tourism industry. In fact, if the government adopts the plans that I have been asking them to do since the beginning of 2023, then Jamaica could double its GDP to $30 billion by 2030, but the government needs to act now in implementing my plans. Andrew Holness did make some important announcements towards the end of 2023 in regards to my suggestions. Namely, he commanded Edmund Bartlett on national TV to double Jamaica's tourism industry from 4 million to 8 million visitors each year. I thought they had both gotten the message, hence a few months later I stopped posting about the issue on my YouTube channel. In fact, I totally stopped posting on my YouTube channel. However, 1 year later I realized that Andrew Holness did not understand the scope of the task he had announced. Neither did Edmund Bartlett understand the scope of what is needed to double Jamaica's tourism industry from 4 million visitors to 8 million visitors each year. In terms of how to accommodate an extra 4 million visitors each year, we need to first understand the breakdown of how we have been accommodating 4 million visitors every year over the past 8 to 10 years. I think there is a myth about how we are currently accommodating the 4 million visitors that we already have coming to Jamaica each year for the past 10 years. For example, we think that we have 30,000 hotel rooms in Jamaica, as we often heard, and that is somehow accommodating 4 million visitors, when in fact 30,000 hotel rooms could not even accommodate 10% of the 4 million visitors that we have coming to Jamaica each year. Hence, when Edmund Bartlett made his big announcements about adding an extra 20,000 hotel rooms in the next 5 to 10 years, it sounded like the number of hotel rooms in Jamaica will almost be doubled. Then one will draw a conclusion from that thought to think that Jamaica's tourism industry is on track to be doubled in the next 10 years. For example, if an extra 20,000 rooms could be added in 5 years, then, even if they only add another 10,000 hotel rooms in the second 5 years, then Jamaica would have doubled its rooms capacity from 30,000 rooms to 60,000 rooms over the next 10 years, and that would in turn double the tourism industry from 4 million to 8 million visitors each year. Of course, neither Andrew Holness nor Edmund Bartlett believes this because they have the facts. But even they themselves sometimes get lost in their announcements, as they sometimes blur the lines between gainsaying political announcements and facts. There's a saying out there that people sometimes end up believing their own lies. This is sometimes true with the pressures of politics and politicians, etc. Disclaimer. First, let me state clearly that my observations and comments about the state of the Jamaican economy and the suffering of the Jamaican people are not meant to belittle Jamaica or the Jamaican people in any way, shape or form. I am a Jamaican who was born and bred in Jamaica, married and had our first child in Jamaica, then started pastoring in Jamaica before I migrated to the UK. Having lived in the UK for the past 3 decades, travelling back to Jamaica and the USA, also visiting some of the EU countries, quite often over the past decade or so, I can see how other countries are operating. Then I started thinking to myself, why could not Jamaica do this or do that? Hence, my posts are meant to be about constructive criticism, not to dishonor Jamaica, the land of my birth. The fact that Andrew Holness has already made several announcements, sometimes weeks or sometimes just a few months after I cry shame on the Jamaican politicians, shows that my YouTube channel is helping to develop Jamaica. Now, in terms of how Jamaica could extract $30 billion from our former slave masters, we would need to start thinking strategically and stop begging for repatriation money, because our former slave masters don't seem to like the word repatriation. Even though Jamaica and other former slave colonies are saying that they don't want cash or handouts from their former slave masters. What they need is help with infrastructure programs and other technical issues, etc. However, the former slave masters seem to be bent on not giving Jamaica and other former slave colonies any such funding in regards to repatriation money. Hence, the Jamaican government needs to start thinking differently. Well, let's stop asking for the money, just take the investments from the foreign direct investors, then get someone else like the Chinese to do the infrastructure works for us. It is time the Jamaican government stops politicizing infrastructure works and gets serious about developing Jamaica. The problem is that the Jamaican government never seems to have a credible plan as to how to grow the economy by 10% per year for 10 years or more. It should not be that much of a struggle to start growing the Jamaican economy by 10% per year for the next decade or two, because Jamaica's GDP is 300% lower than most Caribbean countries apart from Haiti. Hence, Jamaica has a lot of scope to grow and still remain a good bargain for foreign investors due to low wages, etc. For example, in the last 10 years, it is like the government of Jamaica has neglected its number one foreign exchange earner, the tourism industry. The government has no thought-through plans as to how to increase this bread and butter industry, because tourism to Jamaica is like oil to Qatar and Saudi Arabia. However, while Saudi Arabia, Qatar and other oil-rich countries have a handle on their oil industry, the Jamaican government does not have a clue on how to increase the tourism industry to achieve a specific aim or goal. Other Caribbean countries, such as Barbados, have 3 times more tourists per capita than Jamaica. The Bahamas has 5 times more tourists visiting each year than Jamaica per capita, according to their population size. These countries employ more of their citizens than Jamaica per capita in their tourism industries. The Bahamas, which is even richer than Barbados and has more tourism workers than Barbados per capita of their population size. This is why the Bahamas is 5 times richer than Jamaica. It is because they have maximized their tourism industry, while Jamaica is lagging behind both Barbados and the Bahamas in visitor numbers per capita. Hence, the way for Jamaica to get $30 billion from our former slave masters is to allow them to spend that money to develop Jamaica's tourism industry. It is not just about the $30 billion. The most important part is that it will add $10 billion per annum to Jamaica's GDP. For example, it will add an extra $100 billion every 10 years to the Jamaican GDP. Jamaicans do not need to worry about things like most of the materials to build the hotels will be imported from abroad, because that's not important in the grand scheme of things. Jamaica can forget about getting a big payout because of its historical slavery disadvantages and setbacks, etc. Instead of begging, we need to be smart about it and take that money in whatever way, shape or form that we can take it. After 430 years of slavery, it was not the government of Egypt that gave the Israelites the wealth of Egypt. It was the Egyptians that gave the Israelites of their gold and of their silver. Exodus 12:35-36. Likewise, it will not be the government of our former slave masters that give us any repatriation money. It'll be the people of those countries, such as the investors and the visitors to our shore, many of whom are sincerely sorry for what went on in the past in regards to the transatlantic slave trade, and they would like to help in whatever way they can help Jamaica. Hence, Jamaica needs to allow those foreign companies to spend $30 billion building 120 large all-inclusive hotels in Jamaica, averaging 1,000 rooms each. We know that it takes about $250 million to build a 1,000-room hotel in Jamaica. The 1,000-room Coral Spring Hotel in Falmouth, Trelawney, that started in 2019, costs $250 million to build. Also, the cost to build the 2,000-room Princess Resort Hotel in Hanover is $500 million. Hence, the cost of $250 million to build a 1,000-room hotel is a consistent figure across many new all-inclusive hotels in Jamaica. Therefore, the cost to build 120 hotels with 1,000 rooms each would equate to $30 billion. This is the repatriation money that we need from our colonial slave masters. 120,000 extra hotel rooms would equal an extra 5.2 million visitors per year to Jamaica. bearing in mind that at the end of 2023, Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave Edmund Bartlett a command to double the tourism sector from 4 million visitors to 8 million visitors each year. However, the tourism minister gets his visitor numbers to hotel ratio all mixed up. I have heard Mr. Bartlett quoting wrong numbers on a number of occasions. For example, at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Princess Resort Hotel, Mr. Bartlett said that this hotel, with 2,000 rooms operating at 50% capacity, will add another 350,000 visitors each year to Jamaica, which was an error. Mr. Bartlett was making a very big mistake. He was counting the number of hotel rooms versus the number of nights in the year. What Edmund Bartlett forgot to calculate was that the average number of nights that each guest stays in Jamaica is 10 nights, not 1 night. Hence, the Princess Resort Hotel will add an extra 35,000 visitors to Jamaica each year, according to Edmund Bartlett's calculations, not 350,000 visitors as the tourism minister was calculating. To understand the number of hotel rooms to the visitor numbers to Jamaica ratio, we can first look at how many visitors one hotel room will accommodate each year, then multiply that by 1,000 to understand how many visitors a 1,000-room hotel can accommodate each year. First, let's round down the number of nights in the year to 360 nights. Then, secondly, let us divide that by the number of nights one visitor is staying in Jamaica, which is 10 nights. Now divide 360 by 10 and the answer is 36. We now know that one hotel room could accommodate a maximum of 36 bookings for the year, with each visitor staying for 10 nights. Now let us assume that it is a couple staying together in that room, as is normally the case. Hence, that one room at 100% capacity is 72 people for the year. But let us assume a more realistic 60% capacity, then that one room will host 43.2 people each year at 60% capacity. Now let us multiply 43.2 people by 1,000 hotel rooms, and the answer is 43,200 people each year for a 1,000-room hotel. We could round that down to 40,000 people per year, as some of the rooms may not have a couple all the time, but they might have single occupants staying at the hotel some of the time. But I'll leave the figure at 43,200 visitors per 1,000-room hotel for our overall calculations. As to where we would put the 120 hotels, that is simple because it would just be a speck on our vast shoreline. Jamaica is over 120 miles long. Hence, if we put 80 of those hotels on our south coast, because we have very few large all-inclusive hotels on our south coast at the moment, hence that is where most of the new hotels would be needed for job creation, etc. 80 hotels on the 120 miles long south coast would put the hotels 1.5 miles apart from each other on average. However, it would be much easier to cluster a number of hotels together wherever the government can find suitable beaches to put those hotels. This is what I mean when I said that the Jamaican government does not have a strategic plan as to how to develop Jamaica's tourism industry, which is directly linked to developing Jamaica on the whole. The current government does not even know how many hotel rooms it would take to accommodate an extra 1 million visitors to Jamaica each year, something which even a primary school child would be able to calculate. Saudi Arabia knows how many barrels of oil they are pumping from the ground each day. This is something that they strategically planned years in advance. As easy as the production of oil is to calculate, the tourism industry is even easier to calculate because the tourism industry has been more stable than the oil industry since both industries took off in the 1960s. In every decade since the 1960s, the tourism industry has been more stable than the oil industry. For example, we know that 1 million extra tourists equals an extra $1 billion to the Jamaican economy. It is as simple as that. The problem is that the current tourism minister does not know how many hotel rooms it will take to accommodate 1 million extra visitors to Jamaica. These are the simple things that are holding back Jamaica from developing. The politicians just don't seem to be giving enough care to the industries that they are in charge of. They just offer lip service to the people of Jamaica. Then, because of the political tribalism which takes precedence over sound economic reasonings in Jamaica, the MPs and in particular the government ministers get away with doing next to nothing in Jamaica. For example, Edmund Bartlett has gotten away with boasting every year for the past 8 years about an increasing and record-breaking tourism industry. The reality is that in the past 8 years, the Jamaican tourism industry has not grown at all. At the end of 2024, visitor numbers to Jamaica were the same as they were in 2017. Going forward, nothing seems to be about to change anytime soon in terms of the tourism industry because the projection for the next 10 years is the same as it was for the past 10 years. For example, 10 years ago, the talk was that 20,000 hotel rooms would be built in the next 5 to 10 years. Most of those 20,000 hotel rooms that were announced back in 2015 were built, though some of them were refurbishments. Now, 10 years later, we are in 2025 and the Jamaican hotel industry has not grown. That is because 20,000 hotel rooms, even if they were brand new rooms, can only add an extra 86,000 visitors to Jamaica, as I have demonstrated in my calculations above. Even though the hotel industry has added an extra 86,000 visitors to Jamaica, the cruise ship industry has lost about 300,000 visitors over the past 6 years. If it was not for the Airbnb industry in Jamaica, we would be having fewer visitors at the end of 2024 than we had at the end of 2016. The big mistake that Edmund Bartlett is making, according to his calculations at the opening ceremony of the Princess Resort Hotel, is the amount of visitors that he is thinking 20,000 hotel rooms can accommodate. It would actually take 200,000 hotel rooms to accommodate those same amount of visitors, according to Edmund Bartlett's calculations. Or what sense would it make for Andrew Holness to tell Edmund Bartlett to double the Jamaican tourism industry from 4 million to 8 million visitors? Then, Edmund Bartlett announced 20,000 hotel rooms to be built in 10 years' time. Edmund Bartlett must believe that 20,000 hotel rooms can host most of that 4 million visitors. Because at that rate, it would take 100 years to build enough hotel rooms to accommodate 4 million visitors to Jamaica each year. I know sometimes someone can miss something when they are very close to the actions, but this has been going on for too long now. While the politicians are getting richer and richer each year that they are in power, and while their wealth is growing by 30%, 60% and 100% every year, the Jamaican economy is only growing by 1% to 2% each year. Hence, if Jamaica's government ministers were paying the same amount of attention to the country's economy as they are paying to the growth of their personal wealth, then Jamaica would be growing by 10% every year just by paying a little more attention to two of its main industries, namely agriculture and tourism. If agriculture and tourism were to start growing by 20% each year, then the whole Jamaican economy would start growing by 10% each year. Most of the growth would come from the tourism industry, as it is much bigger than the agricultural industry. But we need the agricultural industry to keep the country stable, to keep inflation low, and for food security. Conclusions? These 120 hotels will not cost the government of Jamaica a penny to build, as the hotels will be built by foreign direct investments. Up to 100,000 Jamaican youths will be employed during the building out phase of these 120 large hotels, along with the other infrastructure construction works that will go on. Then another 120,000 Jamaicans will be directly employed in the tourism industry, working in the hotels. Another 180,000 Jamaicans will be employed indirectly as a result of this $30 billion repatriation money tourism expansion program. Let us make this happen. Let us do it now. God bless Jamaica, land we love. Some of my notes are available in the description section and the comments section of this post. Feel free to take part in this discussion on how to develop Jamaica. Remember that it is Jamaica first, then our political parties second. This is part 2 of my current series. Look out for part 3. Thanks for watching this video. To support this channel, please click on the subscribe button, share this video and leave your comments below. God bless you, God bless the Jamaican Parliament, and God bless Jamaica. Until my next video, peace.